Have you ever really looked at a guitar? I mean, gone past seeing it as just an instrument and seeing it as a whole, self-contained system? Well, today, we're going to do just that. We're going to explore the guitar as its own little universe, a complete closed loop of physics, philosophy, and some really beautiful, necessary flaws. So, let's start with this. What if we stop thinking about it as just a piece of wood and some wire and start seeing it as a cosmos in miniature? You know, a whole system with its own unbreakable rules, its own deep-seated tensions, and maybe, just maybe, its own strange path to enlightenment. All right, so our first stop, this idea of the guitar as a cosmic loop. In this way of thinking, absolutely everything is connected. A string vibrates, that's the cause. We hear a sound, that's the effect. Simple, right? But the real magic, the really cool stuff, happens in that space between. It's where the physics of the wood, the geometry of the frets, and the intention of the player all just smash into each other to create this universe of sound. Now, what's fascinating is that there's a conflict baked into this thing before you even play a single note. It's this foundational duality. On one hand, you've got the guitar's static nature, the laws of physics. They are what they are, you can't change them. But on the other hand, you have its dynamic nature. That's you, the player, the unpredictable, expressive human. And these two forces, they're in a constant tug of war. But here's the absolute key takeaway. This tension isn't a problem we need to solve. It's the engine. It's the very source of all creativity on the instrument. This generative tension is where all the expression comes from. It's the little gap where the strict rules of physics meet the wild intentions of a musician. And boom, that's where music is born. So this tension isn't just some abstract idea. It is literally built right into the hardware. Which brings us to the guitar's central paradox. At its very heart, there is a beautiful, totally necessary lie. Okay, so here's the core conflict. On the left, we have pure physics. A vibrating string left to its own devices creates a perfect, pure set of overtones. It's called the harmonic series. It's what nature wants. But then on the right, you've got us humans. We want to be able to play in any key we feel like. So we impose this mathematical grid on top of it, 12-tone equal temperament. And the result of that compromise is that almost every single note you play on a standard guitar, except for the octaves, is technically just a little bit out of tune. It's kind of like nature gives you a billion shades of blue, but to make a 12-pack of crayons that works for everything, you have to settle for a blue that's just close enough. It's a trade-off for versatility. And here is that lie, made of metal and wood. The straight fret. It operates on the fiction that the string is a perfect, one-dimensional line. But it's not. The second you press that string down to the fret, you stretch it just a little bit, which makes the note go a tiny bit sharp. The instrument is in a constant struggle with its own design. So, if the system is inherently flawed, what do? We hack it, of course. And this is where it gets really interesting. Both guitar builders and players have found these ingenious ways to either fix the flaw or, even cooler, to weaponize it and turn it into a source of expressive power. So on the hardware side, you get these wild-looking things. On the left, those squiggly lines are true temperament threats. They look bizarre, I know, but each one of those squiggles is physically correcting the intonation for that specific string at that specific note. And on the right, fanned frets. This gives the bass strings the longer scale length they need to sound clear, and the treble strings the shorter length they prefer. I promise you, these are not gimmicks. They are brilliant, direct physical solutions to the guitar's beautiful lie. But you know, players are maybe even more creative. They just lean right into the flaws. A string bend isn't just a cool sound effect. It's a player literally reaching into the cracks between the frets to find notes that the system says don't exist. And controlled feedback? Oh, that's just next level. The player is using the amplifier to create a sonic loop that completely violates a fundamental law of physics, decay. You're taking a note that is supposed to die and making it live forever. Okay, so we've established we have this wonderfully imperfect physical object. So how in the world do players navigate it? Well, they don't think note by note. Instead, they build mental maps. They think in shapes and patterns to get around this wonderfully warped grid of the fretboard. And this is the guitar's secret weapon. On a piano, a C major chord and a D major chord are completely different hand shapes. But on a guitar, it's the exact same shape, just moved up 2 frets. This lets players think geometrically, which is a massive cognitive shortcut. But this beautiful symmetry isn't perfect. And the reason why is hidden in the way we tune the guitar. And this chart just lays the whole paradox bare. Take a look at all fourths tuning. See how the intervals are perfectly consistent? It's a paradise for logical, geometric patterns, but there's a huge trade-off. Try playing a simple full-sounding chord. It's incredibly awkward. So we use standard tuning. And you see it right there, that one weird interval, the major third between the G and B strings. That's the warp in the grid. It breaks the perfect symmetry, but it does it for a much higher purpose, unity. It's the reason we can play those big, rich cowboy chords. It's a system that gladly sacrifices perfect logic for practical, beautiful harmony. Okay, we've seen how the guitar is a whole system of compromises and clever hacks, physical, mathematical, and mental. But once a player truly masters all these systems, something else starts to happen. They ascend past the mechanics, and the instrument, it starts to become a philosophy for living. The legendary Robert Fripp put it perfectly. All those hours of practicing scales, all that technical discipline, that's not the goal. That's just you building the tool. The real goal is to get that tool so sharp, so deeply integrated into who you are, that you can finally use it to say something true. And this takes that idea even deeper. Philip Toshio Sudo, in his incredible book Zen Guitar, says tone is in the fingers. Now, he's not talking about calluses. He's saying that the sound you produce, your tone, is a direct, unfiltered reflection of your inner state, your intention, your whole being, right at that moment. You know, true mastery isn't just about the notes you play, it's about the notes you don't play. There's this Japanese concept, ma. It teaches us that silence isn't just empty space between sounds. It's a real, tangible thing that you shape with your hands. The rests between the notes, the space between chords, that's where the music gets its meaning. That's where the emotion lives. So after all the theory, after all the technique, we arrive at this one simple, ultimate truth. The guitar is a mirror. That struggle to resolve a dissonant chord, to find harmony inside that beautiful lie of the fretboard, that becomes a practice for resolving dissonance in your own life. The instrument doesn't just make music, it reveals the musician. It's a closed loop, where the player is both the cause and the effect, all at once. So the final question, it isn't really about the instrument at all, it's about you. If the guitar really is a mirror, what does yours reflect?